Welcome to the Fund2000.com Real Estate Podcast. My name is Chuck Ham, and today we're going to talk about issues related to seniors in their real estate related activities. Thanks for joining me today. It's been a while since we've discussed, or maybe I haven't discussed much about seniors on this podcast. And right now our office has a listing in a senior community in Port Hueneme, California. So since these questions have been coming up and we've been answering questions for agents and for buyers and borrowers, I thought it was a good time to put it out there to the public, some of these issues that I think a lot of people might not know about. So we're going to dive into it. The first is, what is a senior community? So our listing that I'm talking about is in a senior community called Hueneme Bay. That's in Port Hueneme, California. You can look it up online. It's a beautiful community. It looks beautiful. It's well maintained, and it feels good to be there. And you can tell that people just care about the community there. The address, if you want to look up the specific property, is 36 West Garden Green, and that's Port Hueneme, California. It's got a weird spelling in the city name, so you can use the zip code 93041. Senior communities are age restricted, so that means you cannot live there unless you're 55 years old or older. The exception is if you're living with somebody who's 55 years or older, you're allowed to be as young as 45. That's the rule for this community. A lot of senior communities are just like that. And the benefit of a senior community is you end up having activities and amenities that are tailored for seniors. And I'm not going to get into the list of what those things are. You can imagine them. There's a clubhouse, there's a swimming pool, there's a putting green. It's a retirement community. It's a place where people go to live a nice life, not have to leave too far from home to do the things you like to do and want to do, and to be with people who are like you. So that's what Hueneme Bay is. It's very nice. There is social engagement and organized activities and these amenities. One of the cons or downsides of a senior community comes with just being in a community or association at all. So not all homeowners associations are going to be age restricted. They're not going to be all senior communities. There's a lot of homeowners associations out there. In fact, a lot of the majority of the single family residences that I find built by new developers, new home builders, they are in HOAs. So it's good to refresh our memories here about what is a homeowners association, because most senior communities fall under the umbrella of a homeowners association with the additional age restriction. A homeowners association derives its authority through governing documents, just like any other corporation. And one of the governing documents that is required to establish a homeowners association in most cases is what's called CC&Rs. CCR stands for conditions, covenants, and restrictions, and that is a specific kind of document that is recorded against all the parcels of real property in the association, and it establishes authority to have rules, and for the rules to be whatever they decide the rules are going to be, either in those governing documents or what the governing body that is established in that in the CC&Rs decides as well. So it does two things. It sets up some rules initially. It puts the world on notice that that parcel is intended to be a part of a community with the rules that are declared in the CC&Rs. And then it also establishes the authority for the members of the association, which membership is derived by ownership. Usually that's also in the rules. How do you become a member? It's usually by ownership of one of the parcels. And from there, you can get a homeowners association. I know that was a complicated explanation, but basically, you're looking for a governing document called CC&Rs, and then making sure that the authority and the rules and everything that the association does is in harmony with the governing documents. So homeowners associations are known to have rules, and when there are rules, you have the potential to violate the rules, and that's a downside. A lot of people do not like homeowners associations because the homeowners associations will send you violation notices, and who likes to get a violation notice in the mail? You might not even know that the rules exist, and all of a sudden you're in violation of a rule that you did not know existed. And that's one of the big complaints. Well, that's one of the big complaints for just homeowners associations in general. Now, imagine doing this in a senior community. There are a lot of people who have in a senior community who know the rules very well, and they when there's a newcomer who doesn't know the rules very well, all of a sudden, you have a bunch of maybe busybodies all over you, and some people complain about that. So the flip side of that is you end up having a beautiful community. But you have, in a senior community, you have a whole bunch of people who are invested in the community being exactly as the rules intend, and a nice place and well maintained. You have people who are looking after the landscaping. They notice the things that aren't being done correctly. They show up to meetings and they participate. They vote. They make sure that they're getting the best deal and the best service when they hire out for services. And they use the services. They use the swimming pool. They use the clubhouse. They use the putting green, and they complain about those things. They complain about the swimming pool and complain about the putting green, and thereby, through that participation that is intended and required to make things the way they're supposed to be, through that participation and through occasional violation letters to non-compliant people, that's how you get it to where it's supposed to be. And that's unpleasant for the people who are on the wrong side of the rules. So that's a little bit about the pros and cons of living in a senior community. It is a very nice community. I recommend you check it out. If you or anybody family member is figuring out where they want to go and they are 55 or older, this is a great option. This listing is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it's $525,000. And for that, you get all the great amenities in that association as well. The square footage is over 1,200 square feet. It's got a 2-car garage, nice little courtyard patio, really nice green belts all throughout the property. And the additional monthly assessment for living in this association is $319 per month, which is much lower than other associations in the area. You can't really find anything in the 300s anymore. There might be one, but I haven't checked it recently. There's another really well-managed association in Oxnard, which is really close, probably 10 minutes down the road. And I thought that they were up to $500 per month. And a lot of the associations are, comparable. They're dealing with inflation. They're dealing with increased insurance costs. They're dealing with just all kinds of difficulty. And so monthly HOA dues goes up. They go up. And but this Wainimi Bay has managed to keep it low. Now, I don't know. I assume that their financial condition is good. That's the one thing you want to always look out for with an HOA, is to make sure their financial condition is good. And one way you do that is by checking their budget, making sure that they're following the reserve study, which is required every 2 years. To get a new reserve study every year, it has to either get certified or get a new one per California code. And all associations need to stay on top of their budgets and their finances, and making sure that there's no deferred maintenance, and making sure that there's enough money in the budget for projects that are 15 years down the road, or projects that have already come due. So if all of a sudden you haven't been planning your budget properly, and all of a sudden you find that your roofs are leaking and you're due to replace all your roofs, but you've kept your dues so low that you don't have reserves for a new roofs throughout the property, then you're in trouble. And that's one of the things that has happened historically in my career. I've seen the HOAs have that problem. So I think you get the idea of what I wanted to convey with understanding senior communities and community living in general. And I've already spotlighted 36 West Garden Green. I recommend it. For $525,000, you cannot find a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with over 1,200 square feet, especially with HOA dues that are that low. One other thing I was going to say about the property is it's got updated carpet and paint and light fixtures throughout, so it's a very nice looking property. It's been sitting on the market, but one of the reasons why we're close to 4 months on the market, or around 4 months, is because interest rates. It's been a difficult time. People are really skeptical about buying. They're wondering what's happening with the market. But in the past week or so, we've gotten a lot more activity. So I actually think, from what I heard, we're expecting an offer today. That's my little bit about living in a senior community. The next section of what I wanted to talk about for seniors is reverse mortgages. Reverse mortgages are for people who are 62 and older. That's the first requirement. You cannot get a reverse mortgage unless you're 62 years old. And I'll explain what a reverse mortgage is here shortly, but I want to preface it by saying that historically I have not liked reverse mortgages, because I've always followed the rule that you pay off your debts, and that you try to live a debt-free life. And the reverse mortgage flips it around. It's a different kind of mortgage loan, in the sense that you're encouraged to have a debt and that you're going to die with this debt. So with reverse mortgages, we get into the difficult, sometimes, subject of discussing age and death. Life insurance and certain people in that industry get into this discussion, and normally in mortgages and real estate we don't really get into this discussion, but here we do, because the reverse mortgage is calculated in part by how old you are. And the reason why is because you're going to be allowed to hold on to that property until you die, and then when you die, the reverse mortgage company lender is going to sell the property, and they're going to make their money back. So they're doing a calculation on how much they're willing to lend, or how much they're willing to, what benefits they're willing to provide under the reverse mortgage, based on how long they expect to be holding on to this loan, or how long they expect you to live, in other words. So we have that discussion. It is required. Don't be alarmed. Just like senior communities are allowed to discriminate by age, reverse mortgage companies are allowed to also discriminate by age. What is a reverse mortgage? Well, first, what is a forward mortgage? Forward is the normal mortgage. You make your payments and you pay off your debt. And usually most of them are 30 years. You can get a 15-year mortgage. But we don't say forward mortgages very much. In the mortgage industry, we see the word forward mortgage, but we don't use it very much also. It's just a mortgage. That's what most people know the forward mortgage to be. It's your traditional loan product for buying a house, or refinancing on a house or a condo or whatever. Reverse mortgage is just like a forward mortgage, except that you don't make payments, and there's no expectation that you repay the mortgage, because the way the lender is going to get paid on a reverse mortgage is by selling the house after you die. There are other exits to that plan. You can always pay off the mortgage company. So you can get a reverse mortgage payoff and you can pay it off. But, you know, the question becomes, do you want to do that? And I'll share a scenario with you in a little bit. The other requirement with a reverse mortgage is that you live in the property. So this is not like an investment property, or this is not a regular mortgage where if you decide after a year or two that you're going to live there and then you want to leave, that you can leave. You can't. The moment you do that, then you're going to be in default on your property. So the reverse mortgage companies, they will do regular checks to make sure that their reverse mortgage borrowers actually live in the property. It has to be your primary residence. It's not that you can't travel. It's not that you can't have a second home. It just has to be your primary residence. So yes, you can have other residences. You can have investment properties, but they are looking for you to live in the property. And if you don't, that messes up their rights, I guess. I'm not sure exactly the reason, but I would speculate that the reason why they do it is because they have to have a basis for recovering their money, and the way they're figuring out when they can recover their investment is when you no longer can live there because you've died. So the reverse mortgages has that restriction. If you do not plan on staying in the property where you're going to get a reverse mortgage, then you need to make sure that you don't over leverage the property and make sure it's not too hard for you to get out of it by paying it off. And so I've seen with some friends of mine who have a reverse mortgage that they're kind of stuck because the value of the property has inflated to such a high level a couple years ago, and that's when they got the reverse mortgage. And then the property values kind of calmed down a little bit in that area, and they've actually come down to the point where they can't really affordably get out of the reverse mortgage. They requested a payoff, and the amount to pay it off is just way too high. There's a question as to whether they could recover through the sale of the property the amount that the reverse mortgage lender needs for payoff. So they're stuck. They have to stay in that property. Otherwise, what happens if you leave? What happens if the reverse mortgage lender finds out that you no longer live in the property or that you're renting it out to somebody else? They foreclose. They issue a notice of default, and that begins the foreclosure process. You have 90 days at that point to figure out what you're going to do, and then another 30 days or so after that until it's sold. So how do you qualify for a reverse mortgage? First, you have to decide you're going to live in the property, and you're going to basically sign your life away that you're going to live in the property. The next thing is make sure you're 62 years old or over. And the next question is interesting. How do you qualify for a reverse mortgage? Traditional mortgages require you to have a credit check. So you have to have good enough credit, unless it's FHA or VA or some other programs that might have a very low credit requirement. But the best way to get low interest rates is to have a good credit score. The better your credit score, generally the less risk you are to the lender, and they reward you by giving you a lower interest rate. So that's in a traditional mortgage. If you want to qualify for a regular mortgage, you better have good credit. You also need to have the ability to repay the loan over 30 years or over 15 years, whatever it is. We're going to do calculations. This is what we do all day long in our mortgage lending side. California Mortgage Professionals Fund 2000.com. You could submit an application there, and one of the first things we'll be doing for a conventional mortgage is asking you what your income is, so we can figure out what you qualify for. And we have to figure out what your monthly expenses are too, by looking at your credit and asking you questions about student loans or whatever your expenses are, to figure out how likely you are to be able to repay the loan, and if you qualify under the lender's guidelines for said loan. That's the conventional mortgage. Credit worthiness, ability to repay, income, those are things that we look for. On reverse mortgages, there's none of that. It's crazy. It's it's a different kind of thing. There is no expectation that you repay the mortgage. There's the expectation that eventually you die and they're going to sell the property. And this is where it's kind of an ugly conversation, but it's a necessary one. So the critical element with qualifying for a reverse mortgage, once you've already established those basics, 62 years old and older, that you're going to live in the property forever, is the property itself. So then we look at appraisal. Appraisal on reverse mortgages is a little bit heightened. It's a little bit more rigorous. It's kind of like the FHA appraisal. In fact, I think it might be the same. I can't remember, but the appraisal is the way they determine the equity that you're going to end up with in the property, and that is what they're looking for. They want to know that they have enough equity so that at any point during the life of the reverse mortgage loan, they need to recover and sell the property. They're going to recover all their original interest in what they loaned on the property, as well as the profit that they wanted to make. So they look very closely at the value of the property. They look very closely at your age. They not only are they looking to make sure that you're at least 62, they want to know how old you are so that they know how long you are likely to live, and they're going to be holding on to this investment. So their investment is the mortgage itself, and if it's going to be 30 years statistically until you die, then you're probably going to get less of a payout through the reverse mortgage, and that's something that I haven't discussed yet. So now we understand how you qualify for the reverse mortgage: age, no need to repay, but the property value and equity is essential. So we're going to look very closely at the value of the property. Now, what do you get with a reverse mortgage? Well, the cool thing is no payments. You do not have to make monthly payments on a mortgage. You do still have to pay the ongoing maintenance of the property. That could include, for example, at 36 West Garden Green, monthly dues of $319. You would have to pay your property taxes. You would have to pay for insurance, and you have to be able to maintain the property itself. Keep it nice. Make sure that plumbing is taken care of, and there's no waste. There's no deferred maintenance. So we do actually look at income when we are taking an application for a reverse mortgage, because the guidelines are going to require that you can pay that ongoing monthly maintenance, property taxes, HOA, upkeep of the property, insurance. And on top of not having to make payments on a mortgage, which is one of the benefits of having a reverse mortgage, you also can get a payout, and you can take the payout in various ways. Reverse mortgages are, in that sense, kind of like the home equity line of credit. You can actually get a line of credit. You don't have to spend it, but you can. And whatever you don't spend ends up being equity that goes to your own beneficiaries for after you die, after the lender gets whatever they're entitled to afterwards. So let's go to the reverse mortgage calculator, and we're going to run a couple of scenarios based on these factors. So the first thing is, if we were to go to a reverse mortgage calculator, you can use them online. There's a few different ones out there. If you're going to calculate reverse mortgages for yourself or for a family member, make sure you're looking at a calculator that is asking you upfront for the age of the person, the youngest borrower that's going to live in the property and be on this loan. So it's going to be both of those things, living in the property and on the loan. Then they're going to ask you for the location of the property, and then they're going to ask you for the value of the property. So put your age in, and let's do an age of 70 for just a hypothetical here today. 70 years old, which means you've got a few years ahead of you still, statistically, and that probably decreases your benefit. Well, it definitely decreases the benefit that you're going to get, the payout that you're going to get versus if you're older. So you put in the age, I got 70 years old, and then location of the property. I'm doing this one for Hueneme Bay, 93041. So that's the zip code, Port Hueneme, California. And then it's going to ask you for the value of the property, and I'm just going to put in the list price that we have is $525,000. And then it gives me what they expect the interest rate to be based on today's interest rates. It's going to be somewhere between 6.8 and a little under 7.5, depending on which kind of program you decide to go with and what kind of benefits you want to get. So remember, you don't pay the mortgage company. They're trying to figure out how much they should pay you based on interest rates. So it's backwards. They're also trying to figure out how much they are willing to lend, or how much principal balance they're going to take in reverse against said property. So in this case, using this calculator, now from one lender to the next, as a broker, we deal with various reverse mortgage lenders. From one broker to the next, you're going to have different calculations, different interest rates, different thresholds that they're willing to do. So it's one thing that we do as your brokers. We shop around the reverse mortgage loans to make sure you're getting the best rates and to make sure you're getting what the benefits that you're looking for. So in this case, on a property that is worth $525,000, a borrower that's 70 years old on a condo in Port Hueneme, this lender that I'm looking at through their calculator is willing to lend anywhere between $186,000 and $200,000. So that means they're not even willing to have a loan amount in reverse of more than half of the value of the property. Half of 525 is going to be something like 260, 2.5, right? So they're less than that. They're willing to be exposed up to $200,000. But that's something. That's a benefit to you as the borrower. If you're looking to not die with all your equity, you want to tap that equity. You're not looking to, and that's where we get into the philosophical question of reverse mortgages. Maybe you don't really care to leave a house or equity or money to anybody. Maybe you don't have anybody to leave it to. Maybe you have a bucket list and you plan on traveling and spending all your money or as much as you can. So, that's where you get into this idea of I could buy this condo in Hueneme Bay for $525,000 and I could pay it all with the equity from selling my the existing home I'm living in. And you could have no payment by, paying it all off. But how do you tap that equity if you don't have, if you decide you want to tap that equity, how do you do that if you don't have any income or not sufficient income? Well, if you decide that the reverse mortgage is right for you based on the things we've been talking about today, then it's a way for you to get, in this case, $200,000. You can take that payout through monthly disbursements. You can have it as a line of credit, so you can use it when you want, or you can get a lump sum. They will pay you a lump sum up front in cash. Now you should figure out, if this is right for you. You talk to your tax advisors, talk to your attorney, estate planning attorney. There could be tax consequences if you're getting certain public benefits, or if you anticipate needing certain public benefits. Sometimes you don't qualify for public benefits if you own a home. If you own any asset, they're going to want to take that. You have to divest yourself. I'm not an expert in some of these senior issues, but I'm aware of them. We get trained on them. So our training is to make sure that you double check with your professionals that help you with these kinds of issues to make sure it's right for you. And these are issues that are specific for seniors. So if you're looking at these questions, then don't rely only on your real estate professional, because your real estate professional is not trained in taxes and not trained in the public benefits that you might be wanting to get, like Medicare. Maybe you have expensive prescription drugs. I don't know. So these are questions you need to take to them. But once you clear it with them, this is a way to not be sitting on equity in your retirement years as you approach your final years. And I used to be against it. I used to think, well, I don't like this. And I still don't like how the situation my friends are in. They're stuck. They don't want to lose the house to foreclosure. They don't want to just walk. They've got a lot invested in this property, and they just can't sell it right now. And even though they want to relocate, I didn't say that before, they want to relocate. I guess that was assumed. It's better to just decide that a reverse mortgage is right for you because you plan on living there until the day you die. And also, I mean, you can strategize and make sure you're not over leveraging the property, and that should you decide you need to relocate at some point, and should you decide that you need to sell the property that has the reverse mortgage, make sure it's a payoff amount that matches what you anticipate the worst the market could go, the worst the market could get to during your years. Now, one other question that comes up with senior communities and borrowers and buyers and sellers who are seniors, 55 plus or older, is the transfer of your property tax base. So if you have owned a house for a long time, long enough to where the market has appreciated the value of your home quite a bit, and you have a very low property tax payment relative to what it would be if you were to buy something today, then the ability to transfer that property tax base becomes relevant to you. So Prop 13 maintains property taxes at the original market assessed value when you purchase the property, except for minor increases capped at 2% per year, as long as you live there. And that is written into the California Constitution. We have a new law that was passed just a couple years ago that allows you anywhere in California to transfer your property tax base to if you're 55 years or older and if you're planning on living in the property. So the question is, can you keep your property tax base for your California property that you live in and transfer it to upon sale of that property to a different property within California? The answer is yes, as long as you're planning on living there, as long as you're 55 years or older. Once you no longer live there, you lose the benefit of transferring a property tax base from one property to another. That's an important issue because if in retirement your income is not increasing, I see this all the time with seniors, they have a retirement pension or a retirement income that is what was good for them 20 years ago, but in today's dollars it's not much, and it makes it very difficult for them to relocate just because of the property tax issue all by itself. The property taxes, if your payment, annual payment on property taxes is $1,000, and then it's all of a sudden jumping to $6,000 because you bought a nice little condo in Wainimi Bay, that's going to hurt, and it's going to keep you from even making that decision in the first place. And that's a policy problem for legislators, and that's why they passed this law. They're trying to avoid gentrification of neighborhoods. They want people to relocate when it's right for them, and for property tax questions to not be the reason why people don't relocate. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions about any of this that we discussed today, you can email me directly, chuck@fund2000.com. That's FUND2000.com. And, I can always call you as a follow-up if we want to discuss this further or respond via email. I enjoy helping seniors. Thanks for listening.